What's going on, world? It's your boy Sig, doing the predictions for the Fifth Borough Fantasy League. I'm gonna do these quick. I'm going to an engagement party tonight for my boy Mike Granis and Fab. Crazy kids met on Cinco de Mayo. Pretty badass story. Mike Granis actually knocked out a kid that was like a big juice bag, like picture Ronnie from the Jersey Shore. And yeah, some of the story they could tell their kids about one day. So much love to you guys. So on to the predictions. I'll go over them pretty quickly. We got Matt Peach taking on Galetta. CBS has it at 89-77. Peach has a great matchup in Stafford versus Minnesota, as Galetta has Phil Rivers versus Kansas City. I expect Stafford to do a little better. They'll probably rush the ball a little bit more than they will pass, considering they'll have the lead. Ben Tate is a starter. Wish I had him on my team, but he's not going to do as good as AP. Like Frank Gore versus Cincinnati. I also like Ahmad Bradshaw versus Philadelphia. Kind of even there. I think the big advantage of the game is Peach's wide receivers. He has Kenny Britt and Mike Williams versus Julio Jones and Devon Best. So I'm going to give Peach the advantage there. And also a tight end. Peach has Jermichael Finley versus Dallas Clark. Also like Peach's advantage at the flex position with LeGarrette Blount taking on Darren Sproles. Have to lean more with Steven Gostkowski for Pledge Hat versus Billy Cundiff. And defenses, the Cardinals give up a lot of yards, but I expect Seattle to not get that many yards. Tough place, they're on the road, but I think the Cardinals will be a better start than the Saints did. So I'm going to give this one to Peach, probably similar to what CBS is predicting it at. All right, next up we have Aaron's Angels, long day of work, taking on Jimmy. CBS has it tied at 89-89. Let's see how I break it down. Aaron Rodgers, Jenny has, usually does pretty whack against Chicago versus Ben Roethlisberger versus Colts, similar to what's going to happen in Kansas City Chargers. I like Aaron Rodgers a little more. Expect more running out of the Steelers this week. Love Ryan Matthews, probably one of the starts of the week. Him and Tolbert. Ray Rice should do a great job versus St. Louis. Forte versus Green Bay. Look for them to do those little checkdowns. Not a lot of running. Great rush defense. Javid Best versus Minnesota might be the better start. Fitzgerald should tear up Seattle in that whack pass defense. Actually have an okay rushing defense. Stevie Johnson should do great against New England, but I'm going to give Fitz the advantage. Like Steve Smith versus Jacksonville over Lance Moore. Dustin Keller's a great start. Looks like Sanchez's security blanket, but I'm going to give the advantage to Jason Witten. At flex, we have Cedric Benson taking on Daniel Thomas. Going to give the advantage to Daniel Thomas. And Sebastian Janikowski going to give the advantage to him over Alex Henry. And at defense, I'm going to give the advantage to, well, it's a tie. They both kind of suck. But overall, I'm going to predict that, let's see, I'll look over this quickly. I'm going to give Jenny the advantage. It'll be a very close game. I think the advantage will be Ryan Matthews. I really do. All right, pretty close. Next up on the agenda, we have Mike Beck taking on Marty and the Pinheads, which is Tom Rhodes' team. We have Drew Brees taking on Michael Vick, who's injured. I like Drew Brees in the shootout there. Hillis came down with like a cold or something like that, but they say he's pretty confident to play against. Michael Turner taking on Tampa Bay. Turner should do really well, so should Hillis. We have Jones-Drew versus Carolina and D'Angelo Williams versus Jacksonville. Rather have MJD in that particular circumstance. We have Jeremy Maclin taking on Mike Wallace. Wallace should score a touchdown, but Maclin might be better versus that secondary for the Giants. That's just pretty atrocious. I feel like Sully and Heedles will probably score. And Pretty Boy on that team right now. Next up, we have Miles Austin, who's probably injured, taking on Brandon Lloyd, who's probably injured, so they kind of cancel themselves out, but Lloyd will probably play. Austin's already ruled out. Mercedes Lewis is probably not going to play, game time decision, so although he sucks, Kellen Rindel's probably the better start. At flex position, I'm going to give the advantage to BGE. As far as field goal kickers go, I like Mason Crosby better than Josh Brown, and I like Packers defense over Bears defense. So overall, we got Mikey Beck taking the win. All right, next up, we have Split Pizzy taking on the Seductive Ducks. Split Pizzy has an 89-88 advantage according to CBS. Let's see how it breaks down. We have Schwab versus New Orleans. Should be a shootout like I alluded to before versus Tony Romo taking on from the Seductive Ducks. If Tony Romo doesn't play, could be a risky start for my brother because, hey, it's Monday night. Who are you going to play, you know? So we have Mike Tolbert taking on Rashard Mendenhall. I like Tolbert a lot, but Mendenhall I like a little better. He's not splitting carries, but anyone should do really well. McGahee probably will split carries with Noshawn Moreno, make his return this week. Ineffective. Look for McGahee to steal that job. Marshawn Lynch, this is it. If he doesn't do good this week versus Arizona, he probably won't do good this year. So I'm trying to get this all rushed out before the party. Andre Johnson should do great, as will Roddy White, but we have Megatron versus Sean Jackson. Pretty even there. I guess I'll give it to Fresh on that one. Gates might not play this week. They're saying he's questionable, taking on Tony Gonzalez. If that's the case, I'm going to give it to Gates normally, but Tony Gonzalez, I think Gates might have been slowed down. It might have been the Patriots level coverage, but I think that he's a little banged up. The guy will play through anything, though. We saw that last year. Brandon Jacobs versus Wes Walker. Going to give the advantage to Wes Walker, but look for Jacobs to post a solid game. David Akers will probably score a decent amount of points, but not field goals. Going to give the advantage to Dan Carpenter in that one. And as far as defenses go, they're both excellent starts, but I'm going to give it to the Chargers because the Kansas City offense is pretty abysmal right now. And with that said, I'm going to give the win to the Seductive Ducks, putting Frisch at 0-3. Next up, we have Zed on Us taking on Mark and Pay Me Now. CBS sees it Frank 75, Mark 83. Tom Brady versus Buffalo is a great matchup. Matt Ryan versus Tampa Bay, not so great. Beanie Wells, if healthy, will be a great matchup. Chris Johnson, I think this is the week that he wakes up. Going to give the advantage there. Fred Jackson versus New England should be good. Sean Green, we got to see how it goes without having Nick Mangold, the best center in the NFL. Brandon Marshall should post solid numbers against Cleveland, whereas Santonio Holmes should do great versus Oakland, who plays a man-to-man coverage. Reggie Wayne will be the only Colts wide receiver to post good stats, and if Des Bryant plays, I like him a little bit better though. Benjamin Watson, not really that great of an option versus Jimmy Graham. Rather have Jimmy there. Hakeem Nicks versus Philadelphia. Look for Namdi to shadow him. He'll post an okay day, but won't be as good as Anquan Boldin versus St. Louis. Phil Dawson versus Miami. Not so great. I'd rather have Jason Hanson. And last but not least, New England versus Buffalo versus Jets versus Oakland. I really think the Jets are tailor-made to shut down Oakland, even though it's on the road. I'm going to give the win here to Mark. Next up, and last game of the week, is going to be Kerry's boys taking on Sig's team. Kerry and Sig both made trades this week. One, some people said was collusion between Kerry and her boyfriend, Matt Peach. Cam Newton for Mike Williams. Excellent trade for Kerry. Really solidified her quarterback situation. She wasn't happy with Bradford or Mark Sanchez. And Sig, myself, lost Peyton Manning probably for the year. Improved by getting Kevin Cobb, especially this week taking on Seattle. Gonna like Kevin Cobb a little bit more. I think it'll be a closer game. Cam Newton's awesome. Could be the next Mike Vick, but they're gonna tear up Jacksonville. Let's be realistic. LaShawn McCoy versus Giants. McCoy's doing great. I'm gonna give the advantage here to McCoy over McFadden versus the Jets. The Jets are gonna just shut down McFadden. Unfortunately, I have no one else to play. Tim Hightower taking on Dallas versus James Starks versus Chicago. Chicago's given up a lot of big plays this season. Look for James Starks to do a little bit better. Also, Santana Moss taking on Vincent Jackson. It's no question that Vincent Jackson will be the better start. We have Greg Jennings taking on Chicago versus Plexico Burrs versus Oakland. They play a lot of man coverage, but Jennings is the better wide receiver overall. Rob Gronkowski should take over as a tight end 1 now, considering Aaron Hernandez is out for a few weeks, and Owen Daniels should post solid numbers, but I like Gronkowski a little bit better. We have Fred Davis taking on Eric Decker. Not the best starts in the world, but if Brandon Lloyd plays, almost fell. I'd rather have Fred Davis versus that weak Dallas secondary. As far as kickers go, I'd rather have John Casey versus Houston, taking on Rob Baronis versus Denver. And last but not least, I'd rather have the Eagles defense because the Giants always seem to turn over the ball versus Redskins versus Dallas. It's going to be weird for her to play Redskins defense as her favorite team is the Cowboys. Named their team Kerry's Boys, and the logo is her favorite player, Tashard Choice. How does that make you feel, Matt Peach? All right, with that said, that concludes this week's predictions. I wish you guys all the best of luck and enjoy your weekend. Make it safe. So, that said, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.